Right, well here we are actually in Wall Street, and like I say, it reminds me so much about of the City of London. Over there is the New York Stock Exchange, and you know, when they've built these major buildings to do with finance, etc., I mean, that gives kind of a feel of Rome or Greece, and you look in London at the Bank of England and other buildings in that area, you see the same thing. Around here we've got, again, the pillars giving the same feel, and that's not an accident. This is architecture put there by design, because it symbolizes and reflects something in this network of families. This is George Washington, the first president of the United States, and the first of many high Freemason presidents of the United States, doing a little Freemasonic hand deal there. And here, Luke was telling me this is where the first Bill of Rights was signed, right?
Yeah, first Bill of Rights was drafted.
It was drafted.
So this is the first congressional hall in United States history. This is where George Washington first took his oath, and then they had to move it later on to Washington, D.C. But this was pretty much where the Bill of Rights were started. Right here.
Yeah. And what's the irony there, when you've got the Bill of Rights basically having its birthplace here, and now all around it are the very banking families, the very banking cartel that has systematically removed rights from the American people ever since, and they're very close to completing the job. And you know, this is like the City of London. It's one of the epicenters from which global control comes out of, which of course is overwhelmingly based on the control of money, lending people money that doesn't exist and charging them interest on it. And by doing that, they've been able to hijack the real wealth of the world by getting people, governments, businesses in vast amounts of debt, and when they can't pay it back, taking the real assets, the real resources. And if people really realize, particularly the House of Rothschild, and you know, you look around here and you see different banks, and in the City of London you see different banks, you see different banks in the high street. Really, if at least the vast majority just said Rothschild Bank, then that would pretty much tell the story. And what the Rothschilds have done by lending people or countries money to fight wars after engineering the wars to happen, and then when the different countries funded in the wars by the Rothschilds then you know, destroy each other's countries or whatever, the Rothschilds then lent more money to rebuild the country, and in this way they own countries. We have this farce of, oh, we're the government of the country. No, you are basically the administrators of a state of bankruptcy, which they don't tell us about.
Okay, but also isn't it contested that George Washington was writing letters back and forth how the Freemasons being infiltrated by the Illuminati?
Yeah, he did. There are some letters in which he talked about that. Yeah, but you know, the British were controlling that all those wars of the War of Independence, and the British lost it on purpose, because when you look at the detail, because what they were doing was managing a process of replacing control you could see, control by the British Crown, which, you know, in the end people rebel against control they can see, touch and taste, and they replace it with a control that Americans couldn't see. And of course you don't rebel about not being free when you think you are, so it basically replaced a tangible control with a hidden control, and he was a conduit to start that process. There's just one other point. Just down the end there, there's a church. You come over here a bit, Neil. Big church. And once upon a time, the biggest building in a place was the church, with the big tower, because the church was the controlling force. It looked down on society. And now the church, although kind of still a controlling force like the Roman Catholic Church, but the big controller now is the banks. And look, now the biggest buildings in the cities are overwhelmingly the banks. You know, I walk around downtown Los Angeles, massive buildings, banks, and of course in Wall Street you expect to find it, but it's kind of dwarfing humanity, looking down on it. It's very, very symbolic.
There comes a point where, in the words of the song, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. And we'll reach the point now where this system is so stitched up, it's so corrupt, it is so targeting the people of the world in such a abusive way that we really have nothing left to lose, because if we don't stand up now, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Take a look up in the sky. Shit ain't right, baby. It's the end of days. I'm fighting off aliens and ducking gamma rays. Yeah, you'd have to see hillbillies in mountains with shotguns nowadays. And pollution has become introduced as a bionic solution. Overhead air raids, dispersing aluminum oxide agents nowadays. I'm a bionic clone that came down from heaven and went too far to hell. No, I don't know if I'll ever make amends with myself, I cannot tell. Seems my whole life has came to me in puzzle pieces, I know it well. The darkest clouds are yet to come, but they're moving away. The darkest clouds are yet to come, but they're moving away. A nation that needs to really come together and overthrow the governments. They think they're so clever, and what they do to you and me, they do it in the plain weather. But we can stand together, stand tall and just fight it all in all weather. Cause overall, I think we might have a chance at winning if we spend it all. And what the fuck's up with the TSA trying to play ping pong and